Good morning. It is currently Sunday. This is meant to be our worst weather day. It's meant to be thundering and lightning, but we've had on and off rain so far this morning. Not too bad. We've seen some blue sky, so I'm hoping we get a good amount of that. But I thought we'd go on a sketchbook date, like I said, and go to the Green Lock. So it's called the Green Lock. It's a bit of a hidden lock. You can only get to it by walking to it, but I thought we could hike there and go and take some photos on the camera and do some sketching wherever we end up around there. Hopefully the rain holds off, but even if it doesn't, we'll take some photos, we can come back and we'll do some sketching back at the tent. So let's get ready for that walk and get dressed and rainproof, and then we'll head off and I'll see you there. And so we set off on our adventure to the Green Lock, which in Scottish is An Lochan Uain, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful walk through all the forests. It's very densely packed, as you can see here, and it's so inspiring, and I just want to do some amazing paintings whilst I'm up in the Cairngorms. And so I will be doing some more, and I'll do a flip through of the art that I've done on this trip as well. But for this sketchbook day, I thought we would venture to the lock and see what inspired us the most. And it is such a beautiful lock. Look at that green colour. It's really funny because you only really see that green colour as you're at the top here looking down into the lock, but it is so calm and peaceful. Unfortunately, this trip there were a few people camping on the side of the lock, which is very unusual for here because it is a fair walk from the main roads. But it's still peaceful, it's still lovely, there's still lovely people about, just, you know, enjoying the same scenery as you, and it's just a lovely place to be. However, that large hill you just saw there's always wind coming off that, so it's always quite a windy place, which is really bizarre, considering you are quite sheltered with the mountains around you. But it is beautiful, and as you can see, it's a lovely little beach, and it's actually quite a small lock, not too big, so very, very nice. So in terms of what was inspiring, I took a lot of photos. I won't show them here because I might show that in my video where I show the artwork that I did, but as you can see, it did start to pour it down on us, and our sketchbooks became very, very wet, but we pushed on, and I thought, instead of trying to paint a very rainy scene and landscape, I thought I would paint some of the animals there. So there's some lovely ducks there. I do have some photos of them as reference as well, just so I could do the rest of this away from the lock, but I proceeded to start to sketch. We did have to keep pausing and putting the sketchbooks away just because of how wet it was getting, but it was kind of on and off rain from that point, and we just sat and started to sketch what we felt inspired to do. Just sat by the lock, and it was a lovely time. It was very peaceful, it was very relaxing, and it was very nice, and we found this really lovely perch to sit on. It was kind of this fallen tree that had been covered in moss. It was very nice. There was even a lovely little divot for my bum, so it was very, very comfortable, but as you can see, that rain is starting to drive. It's just lucky that it's quite dense with woodland there, and we were able to sit underneath and stay relatively dry, to be honest, but we were trying to hope that it was going to stop raining, which occasionally, as you can see in this clip, it did stop raining, and we'd be hopeful, and instead of setting off like we probably should have, we thought, oh, well, it stopped raining, so we'll continue sketching, but it turns out that may have been a little mistake. So this is how the sketchbook date's going. So we are going to hike back and hopefully see you back at the tent for some more sketching. So we'll head back with these pack-a-macs on and get dry, hopefully. as you can see, we of course managed to find a pub. It was actually right next to the campsite, so a really lovely place, and it's always busy. I think especially in this weather, a lot of people were going there for dinner and things because they didn't want to eat next to their tent, which is quite understandable. But we found the pub, we got ourselves some lovely beers and ciders local to the area, which was also very nice, and we set about starting to colour in our artwork. So I brought a massive selection of Winsor & Newton pigment markers. I really do wish that I'd probably toned it down a little bit, but knowing me, I'd pick maybe 3 or 4 colours and then really wish I'd picked a few others for certain things, so I really struggle with pairing back with colour choices, but I chose to do those on this watercolour paper. So this is in my Etcher watercolour sketchbook, and I use those Winsor & Newton pigment markers in here, and I just laid down some thick pieces of colour and then started to layer up the shadows to kind of deepen those colours and leave the highlights white where I possibly could, and it was really, really nice. I love these pigment markers for just being really sketchy, but also sometimes they blend so well on watercolour paper. I find they blend so lovely. So I laid down that colour and then went in with my Staedtler pigment liners to add all the detail, and we just went in with a bit of a scratchy kind of scrawly technique, and that just really helped with the feather texture. I don't know, it was just one of these things where I wasn't really trying to be precise, but that scratchy nature really did kind of look like ruffled feathers and deep dark nooks and crannies in between all the little fine hairs of the feathers, and I think it worked really, really well. And we sat here for a good while. We definitely went through a couple of pints each, but before our eyes started to glaze over with too much alcohol, we called it a day at the pub and ventured back to the tent. And back at the campsite, the rain finally held off and we were able to have a lovely campfire and just sit and get nice and dry and cozy and warm, finishing off our artworks, adding those final bits of detail and finishing this lovely sketchbook date. So I hope you've enjoyed coming on this date with us. We enjoyed having you there, and I hope the rain didn't spoil it for you also, because we certainly pushed through and enjoyed ourselves in the end. So thank you very much for joining us on this, and I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.